Brutal Barracuda, a Sniper Elite channel.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Now a little while back I did a video of 5 things that Sniper Elite 3 did better than Sniper Elite 4. And today is the day that I do a follow-up to that video. So in this video, I will be looking at 5 things that I think Sniper Elite 4 did better than Sniper Elite 5. Now, that's not to say that Sniper Elite 5 is a bad game, because it isn't. But here are 5 things that I think Sniper Elite 4 did better. So first up we have stealth. Now the stealth in Sniper Elite 5 is fine, and it works very similar to the way it works in Sniper Elite 4. But I do feel as though the stealth in Sniper Elite 5 is a bit of a step back from the stealth we get in Sniper Elite 4. And there are a few reasons for this. First of all, in Sniper Elite 4 we have the shadows. Whenever we enter the shadows in Sniper Elite 4, our visibility is lowered, making it easier to avoid enemy detection. Now it's not perfect, but it works well. We also have light sources that can be destroyed, allowing us to stay hidden. And in Sniper Elite 4, this works perfectly. If you see a light source, you can shoot it out, lowering your visibility, making it harder for the enemy to spot you. But for whatever reason, these features don't work quite as well as they should in Sniper Elite 5. Here, for example, you can see my current visibility radius. Any enemies within line of sight inside of this circle will spot me, exactly the same as in Sniper Elite 4. Now, as I approach this light source, you will see that even by sitting directly underneath the light, it won't increase my visibility. Whereas in Sniper Elite 4, this circle would have now increased, making it easier for enemies to spot me. But that is not always the case in Sniper Elite 5. In fact, if I move just here, still close to the light source, I actually become harder to spot than what I was when I was away from the light. But that's not all. If I destroy this light, you can see that again, my visibility doesn't change. Whereas in Sniper Elite 4, I would now be much harder to spot. In this example, you can see my current visibility. Then, when I step into the shadow, my visibility lowers, which is great. Then, when I step into the light, my visibility increases. Perfect, it's working as it should. But when I then step back into the shadow, my visibility doesn't go down. Then when I move a little bit more, then my visibility does eventually go down to where it should be. But then when I move a little more, my visibility goes back up again. My visibility in this shadow should not keep changing. And in this example, again, I approach a street light, my visibility doesn't change. I destroy the street light. My visibility doesn't change. I then head across the road into this field and stand in the shadows, and as you can see, once again, my visibility still doesn't change. But the craziest thing of all is when I leave the shadows and stand in the light, somehow my visibility lowers, meaning I'm now harder to spot than I was when I was in the shadows. And these inconsistencies can be found all throughout Sniper Elite 5, with shadows and light sources not working as they should. But it's not just a case of not working, sometimes they work in reverse. As I approach this light above the door, I become harder to see. How does that work? Now sure, a lot of the time the shadows in Sniper Elite 5, they work fine. The real difference are the lights. Now there are lights in Sniper Elite 5 that work correctly, allowing you to shoot them out to reduce your visibility, but when compared to Sniper Elite 4, the lights and the shadows in Sniper Elite 5 are just nowhere near the standards that were set in Sniper Elite 4. Now the stealth in Sniper Elite 4, it isn't perfect, but it's a hell of a lot better than it is in Sniper Elite 5. Just look at this example. Here we can see my visibility. When I go indoors, my visibility lowers. When I approach a light, my visibility increases. When I destroy the light, my visibility lowers. Then, when I head on over to the second light, my visibility increases. Then I shoot out the light, my visibility lowers, and it's exactly the same for the next light. My visibility will even change when I step into the light coming in from the window, which also increases my visibility. In Sniper Elite 4, the stealth really does work so much better. Finding lights in Sniper Elite 5 that cannot be destroyed is easy. They can be found throughout the whole game. Some of these I have no doubt are intentional, but why? All it does is make the stealth aspect less fun. Even when using armour-piercing rounds in my well rod, I can destroy the rear armour of a Tiger tank, but I can't destroy a light bulb? Come on. I mean, here, what is the point in letting us destroy the lights on the ceiling when the lights on the wall cannot be destroyed? In Sniper Elite 4, I struggled to find a single light that couldn't be destroyed. Literally every light in this building can be taken out to keep you completely hidden. So it's clear that when it comes to shadows and lights, Sniper Elite 4 is honestly close to perfection. Perfection that Sniper Elite 5 doesn't even come close to achieving. Another reason the stealth isn't as good is the sound masking. In Sniper Elite 5 I come across so many generators that are just put in the most pointless positions. I mean, I guess these generators are fine for masking a pistol shot or your SMG maybe, but I want more sound masks in sniping positions. It makes me feel like Rebellion didn't really put as much thought into the sound masks because they made suppressors available on all weapons anyway. And maybe they just assumed everyone will just use those, so sound masks aren't really all that important anyway. One thing that is great about Sniper Elite 5 sound masks though is the ability to create one using pretty much any vehicle, and there are plenty of those just sitting around. But it also makes the traffic that passes through the maps very useful indeed. We can simply kill the driver, then sabotage the engine to create a sound mask, pretty much anywhere we like along a road. We just got to wait for a truck, which is great if you need a sound mask close to the road. But if there are no vehicles about, or unless you're playing on one of the 4 missions which has a map-wide sound mask, like the planes on Spy Academy, the naval cannons on Atlantic Wall and Guernsey, or the air raid sirens on Rubble and Ruin, then we have to rely on generators. And if they are all in poor spots, well, what can we do except for go loud? Suppressors, I hear you shouting. Well, I for one dislike using suppressors on everything. The only suppressor I like to use is my trusty well rod. When I'm sniping, I much prefer to use generators, planes, boats, or whatever else to mask the sound of my shots. And in Sniper Elite 4 we seem to get more generators in better positions, allowing us to snipe undetected. Now don't get me wrong, Sniper Elite 5 has some generators in good spots, but not nearly as many as in Sniper Elite 4. The ones we have in Sniper Elite 5 tend to be in areas less suited to sniping. This spot, for example, all the sniping is done from less than 100 metres, so most of the time it's just point and shoot. There is very little aiming to be done. Another thing that makes the stealth in Sniper Elite 4 better are the rocks. I feel like the rocks in Sniper Elite 4 were far better than the bottles implemented in Sniper Elite 5. Now I kinda see why they did it. It was probably because in Sniper Elite 4 you could abuse the AI using rocks, like this 8-man environmental kill I managed to set up. Now it takes a lot of time and patience and rocks to do these things. So I imagine the bottles were introduced to limit what we could do, which in itself is a bad idea because it was fun to try and see what was possible. You could never get 5 soldiers to line up in a row like this using bottles. Because after you throw like 2 bottles on Sniper Elite 5, the soldiers just start to panic. But the thing is, by giving players a limited amount of bottles instead of the unlimited amount of rocks, means when the player runs out of bottles, they then become limited in their stealth options. If you want to sneak past some guards but you got no bottles left, then you can't really distract them. By replacing rocks with bottles, Rebellion are just limiting our options as far as the stealth gameplay is concerned. Running out of bottles is more likely to encourage players to just start blasting, whereas an unlimited supply of rocks allows us to keep trying for that stealthy approach. One more thing that makes the stealth in Sniper Elite 4 better is the whistle, another of our stealth tools. In Sniper Elite 5, the range of the whistle varies massively. In Sniper Elite 4, the whistle could be heard from 24 metres away, end of story, so you could plan around that. But on Sniper Elite 5, it's been changed to, well, I don't know exactly, because there is no consistency. This soldier, for example, will hear my whistle from 22 metres away. Whereas this soldier cannot hear me from 15 metres away. this sniper cannot hear me from 13 meters away. And this guy here, he must just be deaf, because I get to about 5 meters away and still he cannot hear me. Now, the lights, the shadows, the sound mask, the rocks, the whistle, by themselves aren't a huge issue. But when you start to add all these things together, it becomes quite clear that the stealth in Sniper Elite 5 just isn't as good as it was in Sniper Elite 4. The next thing that Sniper Elite 4 does better than Sniper Elite 5, which will likely vary significantly from person to person, some will agree, others will disagree, but as far as I'm concerned, it's 100% better in Sniper Elite 4, and that is the actual sniping, the ballistics, if you will. Now, this only really applies if you are not using the aim assist. If you use the little red diamond that shows you where your bullet will land, then this doesn't really matter, because whether you're playing with Sniper Elite 4 ballistics or Sniper Elite 5 ballistics, either way, the game will tell you where your bullet will land. But if you play on Authentic or with the aim assist disabled, then you will already know, if you have played both Sniper Elite 4 and 5, that there are big differences between the way the ballistics work in these two games. In Sniper Elite 4, and 1 and 2 and 3 for that matter, it's all about finding your rifle, sticking with it and learning it. Becoming one with your rifle, as it were, like a real sniper would. A real sniper doesn't go out there switching his rifle every 5 minutes, because it takes time to learn your rifle in Sniper Elite 4. There is real satisfaction to be gained in nailing a long shot on Sniper Elite 4 without the aim assist, because you would have earned that long shot with practice and perseverance. But in Sniper Elite 5, it's very different. The workbenches and all the attachments encourage you to keep changing your guns, keep changing your attachments, keep changing the stats of your weapons. And that is likely why we have a much more simplified ballistic system in Sniper Elite 5. In Sniper Elite 5, we have the ability, much like in Sniper Elite 4, to zero or adjust our scope to match the distance of the target. But the difference here in Sniper Elite 5 is that the scope adjustment is also an aim assist. Same with the wind gauge. In Sniper Elite 4, it is simply a wind gauge, showing you how strong the wind is blowing. It is then up to you, the sniper, to figure out just how much that wind will affect your bullet, to determine where your shot will land. But in Sniper Elite 5, on the other hand, the wind gauge isn't really a wind gauge. If it was, it would stay the same regardless of what gun you are holding. What it actually is an aim assist, just like the scope adjustment aim assist. All you need to do is line up the enemy with both of these little white aim assist markers and your bullet will find its target. Now, the problem I have with this, and I'm sure many people will agree, is that we play on Authentic for various reasons. And one of those reasons is we do not want the aim assist. We want to work out where the bullet will land by ourselves, the way we have always done it in Sniper Elite 1, 2, 3 and 4. But the aim assist is disabled in Authentic, some may say. But it's not though, is it? The red diamond that shows you the exact spot where the bullet will land, now that is disabled, sure. But the aim assist certainly is not, because the wind and the bullet drop markers show us exactly where to aim. They are literally pointing to the same spot as the actual aim assist. And many players don't want that. We want to figure out where the bullet will land by ourselves, the way we have always done it. I don't want or need the game telling me where to aim. But in Sniper Elite 5, we have an aim assist on Authentic difficulty that cannot, I repeat, cannot be disabled. It is utter insanity. But with that being said, the sniping system in Sniper Elite 5, it's not terrible. In fact, it's very useful for beginners, casual players, or players who just don't have the time to master their aim like we had to in Sniper Elite 4. I get that. That's why in Sniper Elite 6, I would like to see both sniping styles make an appearance, with the option to choose which sniping style we want to use. Because for me, I'll be completely honest, I get very little satisfaction from sniping in Sniper Elite 5 because the game always tells me where to aim. And you know something's wrong when you get little satisfaction from sniping in a sniper game. Another issue though that I have with the sniping system in Sniper Elite 5 is that the compensation required for wind has been dialed back way too much since Sniper Elite 4. Now this is likely based off feedback from people who played Sniper Elite 4 and would complain that the wind and bullet drop required far too much compensation. And I do not disagree with that. I cannot argue with that one bit. But I feel as though it's been dialed back too much. In Sniper Elite 5, many shots up to say 150 metres require next to no compensation. Now while this may be realistic, what it does in terms of gameplay is reduces Sniper Elite 5 down to a regular run-of-the-mill centre of crosshair shooter like any other game out there, which in turn makes the game then feel as though there is less sniping because we aren't really aiming, we're just pointing and shooting. In Sniper Elite 4, the wind and bullet drop may very well have been exaggerated, but at least we had to aim for every shot we took. It actually made us feel like a sniper. Even if they were just 100 metres away, we had to aim properly, something that Sniper Elite 5 doesn't really make us do. So in Sniper Elite 6, I really hope Rebellion return to the way they did the sniping in every previous Sniper Elite title. I don't understand why they had to change it. Or, at the very least, give us the option to choose which style of sniping we want to use. The next thing Sniper Elite 4 does better than Sniper Elite 5, in my opinion, is map design. Now I'm not saying the maps in Sniper Elite 5 are terrible, because they're not. They're about 50% bigger than Sniper Elite 4's maps, they're fun to explore, they look great, and they have a decent variety. But I do have a couple of problems. And for me, my biggest problem is how Sniper Elite 5 maps just don't have enough great vantage points, like what we get in Sniper Elite 4. Big open areas where we can see loads of enemies and just snipe away. Take Sniper Elite 4's Mission 1 San Celini, which is a gloriously open map. Just look at this vantage point here, for example. I can see half the map from this spot, and there is a ton of sniping to be done. Up here in this tower is another fantastic spot to do some sniping. Mission 3, Regolino Viaduct, an absolutely fantastic mission. So many great sniping opportunities, one of my favourite missions in the whole series. Just look how open this map is, look how far I can see. So much sniping to be done. Mission 4, Lorino Dockyard, is such a magnificent map and another of my favourites with its absolutely ridiculous amount of accessible buildings that we can enter, giving us a huge amount of variety when it comes to navigating through the map. And I have to mention the multitude of rooftops that we can gain access to, allowing for some great vantage points that really open up the map, giving us some great sniping opportunities. Now most of Sniper Elite 4's maps have these big open areas where we can, if we choose, just snipe away to our heart's content. But I find with Sniper Elite 5, we don't really get nearly as many big open areas with loads of enemies like what we get in Sniper Elite 4. Now sure, there are some big open areas in Sniper Elite 5 where we can see plenty of enemies. The start of Spy Academy comes to mind, there's some good sniping to be done there. Landing Force has some fantastic sniping opportunities. But most of the big open areas in Sniper Elite 5 don't really give us a huge amount of sniping. And I think the problem is a combination of different factors, such as Sniper Elite 4's maps were very much designed for sniping, as you would expect, whereas Sniper Elite 5 maps are clearly trying to cater to a new audience, the run and gun crowd. Another problem, as I've already mentioned, is sniping without the aim assist in Sniper Elite 5 is so much easier now. So when you do find a half decent spot, like here on Atlantic Wall, where we're sniping from 100, 150 metres away, to me it doesn't feel like I'm sniping, because there's hardly any compensation required when taking these shots. And the third factor is because Rebellion have increased the map size from Sniper Elite 4 by about 50%, so the maps are much bigger, but Rebellion have been unable to fill this extra space with lots of enemies. So the enemies that we do get end up being spread so thin across the map that a lot of the time, whenever we come to a new area, there's only a few soldiers dotted about. Another issue is I'm sure some level designers go out of their way to limit our sniping opportunities. Take this windmill on Rough Landing, for example. What an absolute treat of a spot this is. We can see so much of the map. It's awesome. Okay, so we can see the guys on the farm 50 metres away. Sniping them is pretty boring because they're so close. So maybe we'll snipe the guys on the bridge. Oh wait, we can't see the guys on the bridge. It's a tree in the way. No problem, no problem. We'll snipe the guys by the church. Oh wait, we can't. There's another tree in the way. That's fine, that's fine. We'll snipe the guys by the AA gun. Oh wait, there's a feckin' tree in the way. And this kind of blocking of long shots happens often in Sniper Elite 5. Now I understand why they do it. They don't want you to clear half the map from one spot, so when you do eventually get over there, there'll be nobody there. I do get that, I do understand. But instead of just putting a tree in the way, maybe they should put a bit more effort in and introduce some kind of system whereby soldiers not respawn, because that would be horrible, but a system whereby maybe every 10 minutes or so an officer will check in on the radio. If the officer is aware some of his men are dead, more will arrive to replace them. Or if you kill the officer so he doesn't check in, maybe lots of enemies will arrive to investigate. But if we are near the radio when the check-in occurs, Cole could pretend to be the officer to keep everything calm for another 10 minutes or so before the next check-in. This would surely be a good way to get around the enemy limit by just slowly replenishing dead enemies with new enemies. This way we would never exceed the enemy limit that is clearly in place, and there would always be enemies on the map. Because one of Sniper Elite 5's biggest problems is there isn't enough enemies on the maps. But I'm getting a bit distracted now. I need to stick to map design. But it is important. If they increase map size, they really need to increase the amount of enemies to match it. Now it's great that we have bigger maps in Sniper Elite 5. But honestly, with Rebellion being unable for whatever reason to fill these maps with enemies... oh, Jen, what? I'd argue they would have been better off just sticking with Sniper Elite 4's map size, because a smaller map packed with enemies feels much better than a huge map that is largely underpopulated. Now I'm not going to go on for too long here about map design, as this video is going to end up getting too long, and I've no doubt you guys will sound off in the comment section anyway. Let me know exactly how you feel about Sniper Elite 5's map design. But I do just want to quickly compare Lorino Dockyard from Sniper Elite 4 with Sniper Elite 5's War Factory, because they are pretty similar in style, these two maps, with lots of buildings, but there are some big differences. Like on Sniper Elite 4's Lorino Dockyard, these here are all of the buildings that we can enter. Most of them, in fact, we can explore and use to find alternate routes throughout the map. Now, if we compare that with Sniper Elite 5's War Factory, these here are all of the buildings that we cannot enter, which is most of them. Building after building after building after building is inaccessible, and it's the same with the rooftops. On Lorino Dockyard, there are a total of 8 rooftops that we have access to. But here, on War Factory, we get 2. One above the pump room and the other above the refinery, both of which overlook the same area. Fair enough, one rooftop does overlook 2 separate areas, to be fair, but it would have been nice to have one of the rooftops somewhere else completely, overlooking a totally different area. Sniper Elite 5 really should be improving upon Sniper Elite 4, but it doesn't really seem to. You can't improve the maps just by making them bigger. But the most disappointing thing about War Factory has to be the sheer potential that it had to really stand out from the crowd. Had it have utilised all of these buildings by connecting all of its catwalks and pipes and staircases, rooftops, zip lines, this could have been an absolute labyrinth of different routes to take. It would have made for a fantastic map, especially during invasion. Imagine if we was able to complete this whole mission without even touching the ground. This map had the potential to be one of the most interesting maps in the whole game, but all that potential was squandered, and all we ended up with, in my opinion, is a fairly boring map, which is a shame, a missed opportunity. It feels to me as though in Sniper Elite 4, the maps were really designed with sniping in mind, but with run and gun being an option. In Sniper Elite 5, it feels the complete opposite. It feels as though the maps were designed with run and gun in mind, but with sniping as an option. In Sniper Elite 6, what I really hope to see is sniping once again becoming the main attraction. Huge wide open areas with long lines of sight that can provide us with plenty of sniping opportunities. The next thing that Sniper Elite 4 did better than Sniper Elite 5, in my opinion, is the AI. Now honestly, I'm not too sure what Rebellion did to the AI in Sniper Elite 5, but as far as I'm concerned, it's in no way an improvement. The AI in Sniper Elite 4 is far from perfect, but it is at least consistent, and that is the defining factor when comparing the AI of Sniper Elite 4 to the AI of Sniper Elite 5. Consistency. In Sniper Elite 5, you just never know what you're going to get with the AI. Let me give you a few examples. In this very simple test, all I'm trying to do is throw a bottle to lure one guard away and then whistle so the other guard comes towards me. An incredibly simple test that just works every time in Sniper Elite 4. So let's see what happens in Sniper Elite 5. So here you can see I've successfully lured the guard away with the bottle. That part works fine. But then when I whistle to lure the guard over, he immediately goes into panic mode. So I try it again, but the same thing happens. And it happens again, and again, and again. But perseverance pays off, and finally the whistle works as it should. It truly is 50-50 as to whether or not it will work. It's just not consistent. But in Sniper Elite 4, it just works as it should pretty much all of the time. Another little test I tried was just throwing some bottles, just to see how these three AI would react. And the results were about as inconsistent as they could be. Sometimes throwing 2 bottles caused one of the AI to panic. Sometimes throwing 2 bottles would cause all 3 AI to panic.
Moment mal.
Sometimes I could throw 3 bottles before one AI would panic. Other times, throwing 3 bottles would cause all 3 AI to panic. Sometimes I was even able to throw 4 bottles before any of the AI starts panicking. Again, no consistency. The way the AI just panics in Sniper Elite 5 when they hear a bottle or a whistle is just annoying. And honestly, another reason why the stealth in Sniper Elite 5 is nowhere near as good as the stealth in Sniper Elite 4. On authentic difficulty, it's even worse. Throwing just a single bottle has the potential to panic everyone. Not only that, but by throwing just a single bottle, the enemy now knows exactly where I am. How the hell do you work that out? But it goes from one extreme to the next. This time when I throw just a single bottle on authentic difficulty, all 3 soldiers run for their lives to the other side of the map. What in God's name is that all about? In Sniper Elite, you're meant to observe, plan, execute. But how the hell are you supposed to plan anything when it's impossible to know what kind of nonsense the AI is going to come up with next? In Sniper Elite 4, you could throw rocks all day long and the AI would not start panicking unless you actually hit them with one. Now you could argue that's not very realistic, but at least it was consistent. Sometimes multiple rocks were needed to allow you to actually distract the guards properly. Now, just throwing 2 bottles can cause the guards to absolutely crap their pants and alert everyone. But maybe this is intentional. Maybe Rebellion added this level of randomness to the AI to make the stealth more uncertain. And well, they certainly succeeded. Now I'm all for randomness. One thing I really hope to see in Sniper Elite 6 is random placement of enemies, random supplies that are found around the map, even random objectives, like when we're searching for the antiques on occupied residence. There should be multiple places where they could spawn, making us search everywhere each time we replay the mission. But I'm not a fan of randomness when it comes to things like the game mechanics. I like to know the rules of the game. In Sniper Elite 4, we knew we could throw an unlimited amount of rocks and no one would panic as long as we don't hit anyone. In Sniper Elite 5, you throw one bottle to lure one guard away. Now if you want to throw another, it's risky. Is it going to work or is it going to just alert everyone? We don't know because it's too random. I wouldn't mind if infantry always panics when hearing the 4th bottle. Jaegers always panic after hearing 2 bottles. Even if a single bottle would make an officer panic, at least we would know the rules of the game and could work around that. The removal of rocks and the introduction of bottles, I feel, was a terrible decision to begin with. But the fact that we can't use more than one bottle without risking the guards becoming alerted is just not fun. Now, I'm not completely against the bottle, and I think Sniper Elite 6 should maybe keep it and reintroduce the rocks. The rocks could be used as a quieter distraction that can't be heard from as far away and has the ability to only arouse suspicion in one guard. And the bottle could be used as a louder distraction so it can lure guards from further away but increases the chance of more guards becoming suspicious. And whilst we're at it, let us make Molotovs using the bottles. That would just be glorious. Another example is the AI's hearing. In Sniper Elite 4, the AI would always hear you when they were supposed to. It was consistent. But again, with Sniper Elite 5, there is no consistency. Sometimes guards just won't hear you. Here is a perfect example. There are 2 guards just behind this wall. They're about 40 metres away. Now the audible range of my rifle is about 150 metres. When I fire it, these 2 guards don't even hear it. Yet the guards up there, about 100 metres away, did hear it. And this happens all throughout the game. More examples of bad AI is this officer here attacking me and the guards are right there, but they see and hear nothing. Or snipers that will shoot at friendly targets if they see them getting shot. Or the AI still, after 2.5 years, getting stuck in endless investigation loops, which doesn't happen nearly as much as when the game first came out due to it being patched. But as you can see, still remains. Here, the AI jumps off his MG42, which he is already holding and aiming at me, only to try shooting me with his MP40. Why? Now I could go on and on about the AI, but I think I've made my point, which is overall the AI in Sniper Elite 5 is just a bit disappointing. Now the AI in Sniper Elite 5 may be far more complicated or technical than the AI in Sniper Elite 4. I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of what Rebellion were trying to do with the AI. But the fact of the matter is, whereas the Sniper Elite 4 AI will occasionally shit the bed, the Sniper Elite 5 AI tends to shit the bed far too often. Now there are more things that Sniper Elite 4 does better than Sniper Elite 5, but the final thing that I'm going to discuss today is the authentic difficulty, which I feel as though I mention all the time in my videos. The authentic difficulty that we got in Sniper Elite 5 is a massive disappointment when compared to the authentic difficulty that we got in Sniper Elite 4 and Sniper Elite 3 for that matter, which both provide a fantastic challenge. I remember in the build up to the Sniper Elite 5 launch, I was dead excited to see how Rebellion would increase the difficulty further. After adding Authentic Plus 6 months after the launch of Sniper Elite 4, I was convinced that Authentic Plus would be in Sniper Elite 5 from day one. Needless to say, I was incredibly disappointed when Rebellion announced during a Q&A that there would in fact be no Authentic Plus in Sniper Elite 5. I continued to hold out hope that it would return 6 months after launch like it did in Sniper Elite 4, but it wasn't to be. And I truly believed that Rebellion would eventually add it. Surely they will. They have to. Why wouldn't they? But as we all know, they never did. Which still, to this day, blows my mind that it wasn't added, because it is desperately needed. The authentic difficulty that we got in Sniper Elite 4, especially Authentic Plus, truly is incredible. It's difficult and it makes for a really great challenge, especially if you're after that best of the best of the best achievement. Now, I only ever play Sniper Elite on authentic difficulty because I absolutely love the challenge that it can provide in Sniper Elite 4 and Sniper Elite 3. But Sniper Elite 5's authentic difficulty, honestly, it's not authentic. Rebellion can call it what they like, but it is in no way an authentic difficulty. It's about as difficult as Sniper Elite 4's Marksman difficulty. Now I'm not going to go into too much detail here because I will just be repeating myself. There are videos on my channel that you can check out if you want to hear me ramble on about Sniper Elite 5's Authentic difficulty, or lack thereof should I say. But for anyone who has played Authentic on both Sniper Elite 4 and Sniper Elite 5, you will be well aware of the differences. From being able to take way more damage than Sniper Elite 4's Authentic, to being able to revive yourself after being downed, sometimes by using just a single bandage, to the stupidly low audible range you can give your weapons. The loudest I can make the well rod in Sniper Elite 5 is 14 meters. That's the loudest I can make that gun, compared to the audible range of Sniper Elite 4's well rod, which is 45 meters. And that's the lowest it can go, which is a massive difference, a 31 meter difference to be exact. As I've already mentioned, the sniping is so much easier now, which in turn makes Authentic so much easier. The maps are horribly underpopulated, there's just not enough enemies on the maps, and the list just goes on. One of my favourite things about Sniper Elite is the way the games can really challenge me on the Authentic difficulties, but Sniper Elite 5 has just completely failed to do that because it's nowhere near as difficult as Sniper Elite 4's Authentic difficulty. And hearing one of the developers saying this leaves me with very little hope for the future of Sniper Elite.
I think even after release, some of the stuff I read about reviews and feedback from players is that some players wanted it to be even harder than it ended up being, which is... I think sometimes people don't know what they want.
Because I tell you right now, I know exactly what I want. I want Sniper Elite's Authentic difficulty to be difficult, not the walk in the park that it has become in Sniper Elite 5. I mean, I'm not asking for much. Sure, the first time you play Authentic, it can provide some challenge, but I for one replay these missions over and over and over. And for players out there like me, we need a harder difficulty, and it will really help increase the game's replayability. So I'm really hoping that Sniper Elite Resistance adds Authentic Plus, although I'm not holding my breath. If not, Sniper Elite 6 absolutely 100% has got to include a harder difficulty option. Now this video may sound like I'm shitting all over Sniper Elite 5, but I'm really not. I'm just being completely honest with you. I really enjoy playing Sniper Elite 5, just like I enjoy all the Sniper Elite games. If I didn't, I wouldn't have over 1,000 hours in the game. But in Sniper Elite 4, I just feel as though these 5 things in particular were much better. Whereas Sniper Elite 3 may be my personal favourite for multiple reasons that I shan't get into now, I'm under no illusions when I tell you that Sniper Elite 4 really is peak Sniper Elite. If you've played Sniper Elite 5 and haven't played Sniper Elite 4 yet, go do yourself a favour, because Sniper Elite 4 really is the best Sniper Elite game to date as far as I'm concerned. Now Sniper Elite 5 does things better than Sniper Elite 4, for sure. The gun customization is great, invasion mode is awesome, the maps are massive, we can aim down sights with pistols and SMGs, we got traffic going through the maps, the game looks amazing. I really don't understand people who think the visuals of Sniper Elite 4 look better than the visuals of Sniper Elite 5, but you know, everyone is different, and it's okay to have different opinions. Now I feel as though Sniper Elite is becoming much more of a run and gun game, with too much emphasis being on the SMGs, whereas the SMGs in Sniper Elite 2 and 3 were pretty useless and were really only there as a last resort. In Sniper Elite 5 we are currently a long way away from the thinking man's shooter that Sniper Elite has always aspired to be.
So we discourage the player from running and gunning in this game. Really, you want to, as a sniper, you want to play to your strength. So it's about securing a vantage point and keeping a certain distance from your enemies.
Well, Sniper Elite 3, as you say, set in North Africa. We try to pride ourselves in being a thinking man shooter, so a lot of people are going to come to this game. We see them, you know, try and run around, run and gun, and usually you get hunted down and dispatched pretty quick.
We tried very much with the Sniper Elite series to kind of make it a sort of thinking person's shooter. I have no real experience of actual fighting, but I would imagine that in real war you don't run down the middle of the road with a machine gun. Yeah. That's going to be a really bad tactic.
I can take out everybody.
Exactly.
I really hope Rebellion can turn it around and go back to this original mindset that the Sniper Elite series was created around when developing Sniper Elite 6. Sniper Elite 5, and from what I've seen, the upcoming Sniper Elite Resistance is starting to veer too far from the Sniper Elite path. If Rebellion want to create some crazy run and gun shoot the shit out of everything game, then I wish they would just create a new IP in which to do it, because I'm worried for Sniper Elite. I really am. I'm excited because I know Sniper Elite 6 has the potential to be the best Sniper Elite game yet. If done right, it absolutely could be. But I'm also very concerned that if Rebellion continue down this route that they're heading, well, Sniper Elite is 100% going to completely lose its identity. It's going to lose what separates it from every other shooter out there. But at the end of the day, cash is king. And if this new direction that Sniper Elite seems to be heading in is appealing to more and more people than the previous Sniper Elites and making more and more money than ever before,
get the fucking cash, would ya?
it's entirely possible that the days of the thinking man shooter are coming to an end. Okay guys, if you enjoyed this video and want to see a part 2, be sure to let me know, as there are plenty more things that Sniper Elite 4 did better than Sniper Elite 5. Also, be sure to let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree that Sniper Elite 4 did these things better than Sniper Elite 5. Or maybe you have some things of your own that you would like to add to this list. And for those who have stuck around until the end of the video, I have a bonus one for you. The scope shot. In Sniper Elite 5, this is what the scope shot looks like. Underwhelming. Now let's compare it to Sniper Elite 4's scope shot. Just beautiful. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like. It really does help the channel to grow. This is a dedicated Sniper Elite channel, so hit the subscribe button to be kept up to date on all things Sniper Elite. And I will see you guys in the next video!
Brutal Barracuda, a Sniper Elite channel.